Hey guys, happy Friday. We are doing another doctor series today, and I'm really excited because we actually have a podiatrist on today, Dr. David Farnen, and he is all the way from Nashville, Tennessee with advanced foot and ankle. And so he's going to be talking to us a little bit about our diabetes and also foot care and what to do during COVID. And I'm just excited to have him. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Great. Well, I just wanted to get started with learning a bit more about why did you want to become a doctor and share with us more about your specialty.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a unique story. It's not one of those fancy ones where I was an all-star soccer player, a football player going to the NFL, or an Olympic swimmer by any means. But for me, I've always been a studious one. I've always enjoyed the human body, and I had plans to become an MD or a DO and get into the family business of anesthesia in California, like the rest of my family members. But I was introduced to a podiatrist, and before I was applying to medical school, and I realized that my uncle wanted me to, who's my mentor as well, had me shadow a guy that he knew, and before he knew it, I looked at this gentleman and I was like, I've never seen a physician more happy. And on top of that, during the med school process and, going to becoming a podiatric physician and surgeon is very similar to going to medical, or we do go to medical school, just like your MD and DO colleagues. But during that time, I actually developed diabetes. So I was late in the type 1 diabetes diagnosis. And it was a blessing in disguise, I would call it. I guess from the crazy nights of studying and stress and anxiety, I developed diabetes when I was 25. And so 24, 25, and I was really ill and finally got diagnosed. But that's where my passion really kind of took off and exploded into the field of podiatry and foot and ankle and limb salvage because of the fact that I'm diabetic and I can empathize with patients and I understand the disease. I understand the treatment. I understand the ups and downs and the roller coasters of it. And it continues to strive to be the best. So I want to be able to save limbs, save toes, and really educate the community and educate the world how important it is to be diabetic and see a foot doctor. So, it is truly a blessing in disguise. I am a type 1 diabetic now for the last, it'll be 12, 13, 14 years coming on, and I'm well controlled. Yeah, am I perfect? No, I'm human. But it's one of those things where day to day, even in surgery, I can empathize with these patients and I understand what they go through on a day to day basis. So
Yeah, I do think that is really amazing and absolutely sets you apart in terms of being able to understand your patients. I know we had talked before, my mom's type 1 diabetic, and she received that diagnosis pretty late in life, and your whole lifestyle changes. So, share a little bit more about that journey in terms of what did you have to do to get healthy, and how did you even know that you had type 1 diabetes?
yeah, so I started to begin to feel really exhausted every day and, not feeling well, feeling terrible every single day, huge migraines. There were days where my muscles were so tight and in pain, I couldn't even get up. And I had to literally throw myself out of bed because it was during my residency training that this was happening. And so we had long days. And, I had to be there. My patients relied on me. Obviously, the education, my younger residents relied on me. And I was just terribly sick and I knew something was wrong. I really did. You read about and you hear about that syndrome in medical school where every syndrome that you have you think you have, but in essence you're just being anxious. You're an anxious medical student. But I truly didn't feel well. And deep in my mind I was focused on my future, focused on my career, focused on my patients and learning and education, that I almost put it aside, to be honest, which is not great, by the way. And if that's something that I could look back on and change, I would, because you can't help people unless you help yourself. But I started to become ill, but I just kind of pushed through it. And then one day, literally, I was at UCSF doing a vascular kind of portion of my training for vascular surgery, and I couldn't even walk. I couldn't think. I was ill. I ended up telling the superior staff of my colleagues I needed to go home, and I took a leave of absence. I went to go seek help, and at the time I was in San Francisco. I ended up flying back to Southern California. I sought out my doctor, and I was diagnosed with an extremely high A1C and extremely high lab values. And I'm grateful that everything else in terms of my body systems were normal. But I was just a full blown diabetic and never even knew it. That was probably a huge turning point in my life, just because I realized I had great family support as well, which was super important. But I was diagnosed, and I had goals set in the future to get better. I had goals set to improve myself, to get healthier, and always made a promise since that point, in terms of that turning point, that I would always educate and I would always have people, and including make myself do better every day. So
That's such a journey, and I'm glad that obviously you're better and you're able to help others. I know that there's been a lot going on in the medical community, specifically, of course, over the last couple months due to COVID-19, and you've been practicing during that time. Can you share with us more about how that has changed your day-to-day as a doctor, and just a little bit about that?
yeah, this whole thing, little do we know. I remember just hearing about this in February. Just I'm an avid follower of the news and such, and hearing the talks of it in China, and little did we know and behold that it would affect and spread this quickly across the world. And I have been part of the front lines. And believe it or not, podiatry and foot and ankle medicine is part of the front lines, because people still have foot infections, people still have foot injuries despite this. But it has changed, our course of medicine, and I'm one to speak, and I have colleagues in all sorts of other specialties, and it really has. I mean, we've been blessed enough to keep open and just take the utter utmost, precautions. Hence, you see me without a mask, but again, here it is, and I see patients with a mask 24/7, and I'm used to it. But I've been blessed to take the appropriate precautions and make those changes in my practice and day-to-day life to see patients, and to whether I have to limit it and see emergency cases. And also part of that was, the idea of telemedicine, right? Telemedicine has been around, teledoc and that type thing has been around for decades. And really, it's kind of been a game changer in this time. And little do we know that teledoc and the rest of those companies would literally explode due to this. And I spearheaded telemedicine here at my office at Advanced Foot and Ankle. And so since then, I've seen, being a prevalent source in social media, since then, I've seen a lot of people, really take advantage of telemedicine. And it's been great. In my field in particular, telemedicine is a little bit more difficult, and the reason is that being a musculoskeletal doctor, and I need to feel and touch an injury, or feel and touch or see a diabetic foot wound, or see a fragile diabetic or vasculopath patient. But, with telehealth medicine and taking the proper precautions, and, really seeing urgent and emergent cases, I mean, that's kind of been my day to day. As Tennessee starts to open up now with phase 3 reopening, we're seeing a steady increase in patients, and all my true patients, regular patients that have come in, I've, have not been afraid to come in, which has been great, as long as, of course, we take proper precautions within the office setting and the patient waiting room settings and such. So I've been blessed that my patients are confident in our ability to take those precautions and come in. So.
Absolutely, and it's great that you're still able to see them. But in terms of, I know that you're also a surgeon and that you do reconstructive surgery. Can you share with us more about that? Have you been actually doing surgeries during COVID-19? Are you starting to do more surgeries as things open up in your area?
Yeah, so I also, again, been blessed to have the ability to do urgent and emergent surgeries. As you know, since the start of this COVID-19 process, all elective surgeries were canceled. So unfortunately, a lot of my patients had to suffer through that, with elective problems. But urgent and emergent cases such as diabetic foot infections and things of that nature, I have been able to do. And it was actually at the hospital present, even when through the thick, when things were really bad. But when duty calls, I was able to operate. And now that things are reopening, the elective cases are literally rolling in, and I'm solidly booked for the next probably 2 to 3 months, which has been great and a blessing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you kind of mentioned in the beginning when we were talking that you have a mentor. So can you share with us more about that and how important it is to have a mentor in your career, and also anybody who's studying to perhaps become a doctor and help others?
Yeah, absolutely. So mentorship is something that I value highly. Ever since I was at the young age of, a high school student, even elementary school, I've always had a mentor. My uncle, Dr. Alejandro Ramirez in California, He's been my mentor and a family mentor, not only to me but to multiple members of my family who are in the medical field now. But it is so important to have a mentor to kind of keep you guided, keep your head into the game per se. And I mean, there's a lot of, even with all this going on now with riots and all the negativity in this world and market crashes, and you hear about negative things all the time and terrible things happen. And here in Nashville, we had floods, we had, destruction, then we had rioting, and then we had COVID. I mean, it's one thing after another. And having a good mentor is so important in kind of clearing your mind, clearing your head, and keeping you forward and keeping you in the game and keeping you successful, I think. And I mentor many medical students, both MD, DO, and DPM in my field. And I'm actually part of a mentorship program through my organizations here, a national organization, to kind of mentor, the young medical students and the young podiatry students in getting into, podiatric medicine and surgery, or just medical students in general. I feel, you got to give back, and education is so important in that young generation. So.
Absolutely. And I know that also you're a family man as well, because I follow you on Instagram. So if you were to share a little bit with us about how do you keep that balance? Like, it sounds like you're very busy. Your day-to-day seems pretty filled with patients. So what would you say in terms of keeping that work-life balance?
Excellent question. So I value this tremendously, and it's really, you got to do it. Hands down, the answer is simple. You just got to have time to do it. You got to make time. I value being busy, and even my staff here would complain that I need a 50 patient day. I need to be working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday, and I would if I could, of course. But you need to do it. You need to take the time to put your love coins in your relationship. I like reading self-development and relationship books and so on and so forth. I've read the 5 love languages and things like that, with love coins and things of that nature, and always trying to better myself. But really, you need, simply put, you need to take the time to do it. You set aside time. Yeah, you're busy. Yes, you have a billion surgeries. Yes, you're on call all the time. And yes, it's Father's Day weekend. Doesn't mean I don't go into the hospital around on patients that I have today and through the weekend. I'm going to, even on my own day to praise the Father, I'm still going to go in. And I am a father and a caring father. But you simply put, you take the time to have that emotional connection with your wife or loved one or partner. And not to mention, you take the time to really love and, interact with your kids and or even pets. I'm a dog dad as well, and I don't neglect my pet ever. I mean, she's a princess and she will always have my attention. But nonetheless, you simply put, you take the time to do it, you make the time to do it, and your relationships are going to be a lot healthier and happier, in turn making you a better doctor.
I think that's an excellent answer. And I know that you're originally from Nashville. So where are you originally from, and what's your favorite thing about Nashville?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Southern California in Orange County. Went to school in Irvine and raised out that way. Family's still out that way. Love Southern California. It's a fantastic place. But going to Nashville was one of the best things to do. Moving my family here. My daughter's Nashville born, but one of my favorite things to do in Nashville is I love country music. So I am man enough to admit I am a country music fan, and this is the place for me. I can listen to everything from old school Garth Brooks to your new school guys, Sam Hunt, Dustin Lynch, Luke Bryan, all these guys. This is the country music capital of the world. And I can dance to country, I can sing country. I used to be able to play guitar, so I'll pick that back up now. But really, I mean, that's my favorite thing about Nashville is the music scene here. The music scene's fantastic, and it's right up my alley. So
I think that's amazing. I like country too. When I was reporting, I reported in Missouri, so I always have the country station at least on my radio when I'm driving. And my colleague the other day was like, "I love the fact that you always, have your little country going here and there." And I told her at some point I learned line dancing. I was not very good at it, but it was just a fun new thing to try. So I think that's really neat. My last question to you is kind of going back to the medical is I know that we talked about telemedicine and how you've been able to see some of your patients, but where do you think that medicine is going to be in like the next 5 years from now in terms of what you do? Is it going to continue to evolve? Are we going to continue to see things like COVID-19? What would be some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I get this question often, and what I tell patients and colleagues alike is COVID-19 is not going anywhere. Yes, the numbers will lower. Yes, we test more. Yes, that hopefully there'll be a cure here in the next few years with the vaccine, but it's not going anywhere. And neither are viruses like the flu or essentially the common cold. And so medicine has to evolve. We have no choice. And I think this, in terms of what's happening now with COVID-19, this is going to kind of spearhead a lot of evolution and progress in medicine. I think you're going to see a lot of telemedicine be prevalent as numbers spike in and out. I think that in terms of my field, being foot and ankle, again, it comes down to the fact where I have the ability to do telemedicine, but really, I prefer, and as well as my group and my colleagues prefer to actually, we have to touch the foot. We have to feel the foot. We have to feel the injury. We have to see the injury in order to properly diagnose with x-rays and so on and so forth. So my field in particular, as well as other orthopedic colleagues, I feel, would feel the same way. I mean, with us, we're very on, a touch and feel basis. But I think in the future, you're going to see a lot of telemedicine. We're going to still see proper precautions need to be taken. That's not going anywhere for a long time. I have a lot of colleagues and patients asking me, do I think wearing masks day to day is going to change? And I do not think so. I think it's going to be a mainstay. I think people need to get used to it, believe it or not. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but you need to protect. The biggest thing is protecting yourself, protecting your family, protecting your loved ones, and protecting others, which is equally as important. So.
Well, I kind of wraps up our interview, but I think that you've been amazing, and I want to wish you a happy Father's Day. Where else can we follow you? Can you give us your Instagram handle, or tell us, if there's someone in Nashville listening, where they can come see you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on at Dr. David _DPM on Instagram. I'm also the famous TikTok toe doc. I actually got on the TikTok and I'm very active on there, and it's been a lot of fun, and I continue to produce good content there. I will be starting as something special, so you hear it first. I will be starting a YouTube channel soon, so stay tuned, and we'll get that set up, and I think that's going to be super fun. I'm super excited about that. But yeah, follow me on those social media, and I continue to produce good educational content and a day in the life of me. So,
well, thanks so much, Dr. David. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming on the show.
You as well. Thank you so much.